Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Minnesota's fifth annual 50 over 50 celebration event brought to you by AARP Minnesota and Pollen Midwest. My name is Kate Schaefers, and I'm Volunteer State President of AARP Minnesota. I'm also Executive Director of University of Minnesota Advanced Careers Initiative. I'm thrilled to be here with you tonight as we celebrate 2020's 50 over 50 honorees. Obviously, we're doing things a little differently this year. Last year, we had 350 of us gathered at McNamara Alumni Center for a celebration event complete with an MC, musical performances, and tables of family, friends, and colleagues. Tonight, we're gathering virtually, watching a live broadcast on Facebook and YouTube. These are strange times indeed, but what's important is that we're experiencing this moment of hope, resilience, and celebration together as a community. Early on in the pandemic, AARP Minnesota and Pollen had several conversations about whether to continue with the program this year. We knew people's attention would be elsewhere and their bandwidth for submitting nominations would be limited. Yet we also knew that this was a time when we needed hope. The wise and wonderful Mr. Rogers taught us to look for the helpers in times like these. We look for people who are keeping our communities connected, whole and nourished. We look for people who prioritize the collective community over their individual needs. Luckily for us, Minnesota is full of helpers, doers, and leaders. And at no time is this more evident than right now. Across this state, individuals age 50 and over are doing what they have always done, leading, inspiring, and making an impact. AARP Minnesota and Pollen's 50 over 50 have always been about celebrating hope, resilience, and the contributions of those over the age of 50 who work tirelessly to make Minnesota better for all of us. Over the past 5 years, over 250 individuals from across Minnesota have proven that you don't have to be under 40, 30, or 20 to blaze a trail and shake things up. And this year, we have all had to shake things up, whether it was part of our plan or not. In the face of a global pandemic and growing calls for systemic change in our state and beyond, Minnesotans over the age of 50 are giving their all as they care for the sick, feed the hungry, counsel the distraught, heal the masses, reimagine their businesses, and give hope to our communities. So thank you for joining us tonight. I'd now like to welcome AARP Minnesota's State Director, Will Phillips, along with Pollen's Engagement and Advancement Director, Julie Cohen, who will present this year's honorees.
Kate, thank you for kicking off this evening's celebration and for being an amazing state president for AARP Minnesota. And thanks to all of you for tuning in tonight as we celebrate the courageous, compassionate, and selfless acts of service by Minnesotans over the age of 50. Before we present this year's honorees, I'd like to take a moment to recognize the work of our selection committee. This is one dedicated group of members. While navigating a global pandemic and living and working in the epicenter of a national reckoning over police brutality and racial injustice, they spent significant time reading and considering more than 150 nominations. They pushed us and each other to make sure that this group reflected the best of who we are as a state. And they took much pride in making their final choices that were truly difficult. This year's selection committee includes Marcia Ballinger, Paul Benshoff, Meredith Crosby Moore, Greg Cunningham, Matt Kramer, Kevin Lindsay, Rose McGee, Rebecca Stibbe, Jonathan Weinhagen, and Christina Woods. To each of you, thank you for the time and energy you've invested to help us celebrate and recognize the achievements and contributions of this year's honorees. And now to get started, and Julie, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Will. Good evening, everyone. Earlier this spring, people from across Minnesota visited 50over50mn.org to nominate leaders in their community in one of 5 categories: arts, business, community, disruption, and nonprofits. Our selection committee then took on the near impossible task of narrowing down the list to 50 of the most inspiring and accomplished leaders from across the state. We invite you to visit 50over50mn.org to read about this year's honorees and the impact they're making on Minnesota communities. Let's get started with the arts category. These honorees are artists, writers, musicians, performers, thespians, filmmakers, and other creatives who contribute to Minnesota's thriving culture. Here are the honorees in the arts category. Edie Barrett, Ortonville. Jack Becker, St. Paul. Sandra Brick, Minneapolis. Diane Jarvie, Minneapolis. Karen Kramer, Duluth. Colleen Sheehy, Minneapolis. Dr. Anton Troyer, Bemidji. Diego Vasquez Jr., St. Paul. And Erica Zaffarano, Plymouth.
Congratulations to our 2020 50 over 50 arts honorees. And next, we want to meet the business leaders, business owners, and entrepreneurs who are growing Minnesota's economy while being good stewards of our resources and talent. We have Heidi Andermack, Minneapolis. Cedric Key, Eagan. Jane Lalonde, Minneapolis. May Lee, White Bear Lake. Shannon Lemon, Minneapolis. Beth Parkhill, Minneapolis. Y. Elaine Rasmussen, St. Paul. Deborah Shriver, Spicer. Sheila Stewart, Minneapolis. Mike Tamale, St. Paul.
Congratulations to our 2020 50 over 50 business honorees. Now let's recognize the people working to make their communities stronger by volunteering, organizing, or serving in public office. Here are this year's community honorees. Jenny Benson, Nevis. Charles Cruz, Staples. Steve Lear, Minneapolis. Jacqueline Milton, St. Paul. Sheila Mushtaq, St. Paul. Bonnie Reitz, Austin. Dr. Cheryl Robertson, Minneapolis. Dr. Anthony Stately, Shakopee. Dr. Patrick Cheetah, Woodbury. And Mary Ellen Vetter, Brooklyn Park.
Congratulations to the 2020 50 over 50 community honorees. Our next group of honorees doesn't settle for the status quo. They tear down obstacles for change, see opportunity where others don't, break new ground, and shake things up. Let's meet the 2020 disruptors. Phil Duran, Minneapolis. Cynthia Fashaw, St. Paul. Amelia Frank Meyer, Minneapolis. Duchess Harris, Vadnais Heights. Jimmy Longoria, Oak Park Heights. Diana Pierce, Plymouth. Vanessa Tennyson, Minneapolis. Woki Wea, Woodbury. Mark Westlake, Farmington. Michael Wright, St. Paul. Kathy Werzer, Stillwater.
Congratulations to this year's disruptors. Our final category, Marquita Stevens, Woodbury, and Umo Udo, Farmington. Congratulations to all of this year's 50 over 50 honorees. It has been an absolute pleasure getting to know all of you and to be in awe of not only everything you've accomplished, but more importantly, how you continue to have an enormous impact on our collective future. I sincerely thank you all for your contributions to our community. Now, before we get to the premiere of the 50 over 50 film, I'd like to thank a bunch of people who make this program possible. Starting with Bev Buckle, AARP superstar volunteer, writer, and media maven. Julie Van Grohl, the artist behind this year's honoree illustrations. Kelsey Sharp, the designer who produced this year's awards, Will Phillips, Carla Zabachnik, Kate Schaefers, and Laura Kerwin at AARP Minnesota for their partnership and friendship, Monica Nadal, Pollen's art and talent director, Jerome Rankin, Pollen's editorial director, Tom Leftis, Pollen's program and operations associate, D.A. Bullock, Maya Washington, and Tyel, and the entire creative team at Bully Creative Shop.
Julie, thanks to you and also to all of our friends at Pollen. 2020's 50 over 50 honorees show us the possibilities and contributions that come with age. They are a reflection of who we are today and who we will be tomorrow. And now to introduce the premiere of the 50 over 50 documentary, let's welcome Pollen's editorial director, Jerome Rankin.
Hello, I'm Jerome Rankin, Pollen's editorial director. This is my 4th year working on the 50 over 50 program. And what I love most about it is the way it shows Minnesota at its best. The creativity, the enterprising spirit, the vibrant diversity, and the care and concern that we have for our neighbors and our communities. It's a pleasure to get to immerse myself in the stories and work of these honorees every year. So this year, when it became clear we wouldn't be able to celebrate in person, AARP Minnesota and Pollen started brainstorming on how we could recognize this year's honorees and show care and concern for our community by not subjecting everyone to a 2-hour Zoom event. So we partnered with Bully Creative Shop to document the voices, the histories, the perspectives of this year's 50 over 50 honorees. The film we're about to share not only documents this moment, but also celebrates the collective experience and wisdom from the over 250 individuals this program has recognized over the last 5 years. Our teams filmed for 4 days across the state, capturing 20 interviews in person and some over Zoom. The result? A chorus of voices reflecting on the importance of the community, the change they work toward, and what it means to age. Now, bear with us, because it's 2020 and you just never know what's going to happen. We're going to live stream the video right here. But if for some reason the video is choppy or freezes up on you, you can head over to AARP Minnesota's YouTube channel to watch the film on your own and at your leisure. The URL there is bit.ly/50 over 50 doc-YT. You can also watch the film live on AARP Minnesota's Facebook page, and that's at bit.ly/50 over 50 doc-FB. So, without further ado, we are proud to present the 50 over 50 documentary. We encourage you to share it far and wide with your family, your friends, your colleagues to celebrate the accomplishments and contributions of Minnesotans over the age of 50. Enjoy the film.
For 4 years, over 1,000 nominations, and 200 honorees, AARP Minnesota and Pollen's 50 over 50 has always been about celebrating hope, resilience, and the contributions of those over the age of 50 who work tirelessly to make Minnesota better for all of us.
We see 40 under 40, we see 30 under 30, but there was not a real positive story being told about what it means to age in our state.
When there's a topic or something happening in society that makes us angry, like seeing people who are over the age of 50 not being recognized for their accomplishments, we can take that anger and that rage and we can channel it into something joyful and productive and celebratory. That's what 50 over 50 is about.
The 50 over 50 list recognizes and celebrates the courageous, compassionate, and selfless acts of service by Minnesotans over the age of 50 who are giving their all.
Coolest thing about 50 over 50 is how it carries over into community. It's not just about today, it's about what happens out there.
As they care for the sick, feed the hungry, counsel the distraught, heal the masses, reimagine their businesses, and give hope to our communities. This year is no different. In fact, their inspiring stories are exactly what we need right now, in the face of a global health and economic crisis.
I'm deeply appreciative and I feel truly honored by the award and lucky to have the company that I'm keeping through this.
I actually, when I saw it initially, I deleted it because I didn't know what it was.
Well, it is very humbling because in my circle of friends, I probably know like 20 people that I think are equally deserving.
I don't believe you should get this award because you've been doing something for a long time. Who cares? It's have you been doing anything that has an impact?
Thank you all. Thank you, the selection committee. Thank you, the people who nominated, particularly with all my heart. And thank you for the work you are doing, guys. It's awesome.
I was very honored, very honored.
It's in a way energizing and reminding us that keep going and keep that work happening because the world needs you and there's just so much more to do.
The best artists find beautiful, compelling ways of sharing their world with us, and that skill doesn't fade with age.
The arts provide an array of modes of communication that transcend all of our artificial barriers between people. It transcends language, culture. We can speak to each other in an entirely different way.
Whether they're working with words or images, paint or clay, the honorees in this category show that our ability to bring form to our experiences and help others do the same often gets better as we get older.
You know, I teach Ojibwe language, history, culture, do a lot of racial equity work. I consider myself a part of many different communities, and we're experiencing profound challenge and change in all of them. Learning about your culture, history is a powerful healing and decolonizing act. And I think everyone from every community deserves and should be supported and empowered to acquire that for themselves. I find the arts to be one of those places where we can do our best work and our most transformative communication.
Success in business and connection to community don't have to be mutually exclusive.
You know, when we talk about the children with autism or adults with autism, which I work really closely with, there's no structure in place for them to be able to manage their day-to-day lives.
With leadership in industries from food to finance, they're showing that our golden years can generate both profit and positivity. The biggest importance is having the passion. Having the passion to look at each individual differently, because they're all different, just like you and I are, and to establish that relationship that they can see that you care about what their future is going to look like. I'd like to see better pay. I'd like to see better opportunities. And I'd really hope for, you know, the love that most people have in their hearts to show instead of talking about it. Let's see some action behind that. I think that those barriers can be knocked down, but I think it's going to take those business owners to say, hey, we're not going to abide by this because it's hindering so many different people, specifically minorities. And I think that that's what we have to push for, and that's my hope.
proximity alone doesn't bind us together. It takes each of us reaching outward with support from leaders who understand community.
I originally had worked or done volunteer work for Days for Girls, which was an international organization that makes like menstrual kits that are reusable for developing countries. And then when the pandemic happened, they said to basically stop that and change it all to masks. In the end, we did 6,000 masks we made and donated. And we're a little town of 400 people.
These honorees are living proof that aging doesn't mean turning our attention inward.
Every one of us has a role to play in helping us make this economy not just work for some people, but work for everybody.
Whether they're advising or organizing, researching or educating, they're still reaching outward to strengthen our communities.
The work that I do has never felt more critical and more important to me than this moment in time. After the murder of George Floyd and the civil unrest that happened as a result of that, you know, and the convergence of that with the COVID-19 pandemic. I work in healthcare, and I direct a community health center that is a safety net center for people in the neighborhood I live in. And when those three things kind of all happened at the same time, it really laid bare all of the challenges that our community has.
I had like the Wellstone Center in Hibbing call me, and this woman was almost crying, and she was saying that we don't have any PPE starting Monday, and this was a Friday. And so my husband took everything we had and drove over there and delivered it for the Monday.
When the pandemic is over, hopefully soon, a lot of those stresses are not going to go away. So our work needs to continue.
It's not going to happen overnight.
It actually starts with trust, building relationships, and then knowing what your sphere of influence is. And the influence starts with your family, your friends, your place of worship, where you work. And that influence is what we can use to make and bring about change in communities.
The status quo can sometimes feel like an immovable object. But the honorees in the disruptor category are truly irresistible forces.
As a category, they kind of look to see how they can add value to the community.
Ushering in a change that is going to be a sustainable change, but it's also challenging the status quo and how things are normally done.
That's kind of it. But as an artist, it's asking the question is what is meaningful. And I'm sorry, I don't decorate.
I have done a lot of work in terms of being the first one to walk through the door. But the thing that I'm most proud of is holding the door open and encouraging people to walk in with me, not necessarily behind me.
That's the name of the game. We need to go and in every single corner, every single moment, remind people we're not there yet.
They're making it clear that getting older doesn't mean settling for things as they are. Instead, they're working to make things better in healthcare, education, media, or any system that needs the energy of innovation.
We are unapologetic in how we do that.
We find women, Black, Indigenous women of color, and that are coming through their sophomore and junior years, and we're creating scholarships for them to, help them, wrap up their time in Augsburg.
As I think of myself as a disruptor, I think I understand and realize that systems are really designed to replicate themselves. And how do we think differently about approaching how those systems can be changed so that they are more in sync with what communities really want to change.
And we raise the complaint in all sectors. It's sort of like we have to be like a flood.
The Minnesota nonprofit sector reaches across a wide variety of issues and communities all over the state. But what unites them all is a belief in the power of service and leadership.
Well, you can't expect government or the business sector to do everything to serve a community. And so it's left to the nonprofit sector.
My name is Rodolfo Gutierrez.
My name is Marquita Stevens.
My name is Bill Nelson.
When you offer some service to the people that look like you, act like you, talk like you, then they feel more inclined to come and ask you for support for the service.
These nonprofit honorees aren't stepping back as they get older. They're doing more than ever to help their communities grow, learn, and thrive.
I just completed a primary run for state senate. But my heart, my calling, my true self comes alive in the nonprofit sector.
In housing and opening up new opportunities. Many people need food, and you have food supply operations that all are run by nonprofits. You have health agencies that are there to serve people in a variety of ways, including providing good advice along the way. And of course, you have the spiritual dimension of life that churches and other religious organizations can provide.
Nonprofit leadership has always been cutting edge, particularly as you think about it in terms of civil rights and those issues that impact the Black community in particular, and our activity toward progress and moving toward full citizenship in this country.
The nonprofit has this critical sector of filling all those gaps where people have all those special needs.
If you were going to be the best that you can be, it just has to be where you are and who you are.
So I see myself and all of us getting more directly involved in making the change that we want to see.
You're still setting goals and still achieving those goals.
And then you think about the world out there and the needs that it has. There are so many opportunities to give, to help, to support.
To me, 50 is kind of the point in which you are old enough for you to accumulate a lot of experience that you can share.
It's the time of your life when you can apply all the lessons that you've learned throughout your life.
So as you enter into elderhood, it's something to look forward to. It's an opportunity to share your memories.
And more importantly, you discover how little you know and how much more out there is yet to know.
I guess I haven't felt myself that I'm old yet.
I am more confident at 51 than I was at 41.
Mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, career-wise.
I love it. I love aging, tell you the truth.
I can't wait to have more wrinkles on my hands because it just means much more to do and contribute.
Well, that's a wrap on our 2020 50 over 50 celebration, everyone. We hope you all enjoyed the premiere of our documentary film. And for those of you who celebrate, happy Hanukkah. And I hope everyone has a wonderful evening. Good night.